In the heart of Agbara village, lived a kind-hearted father named Ethanade, a widower with 3 children, 16-year-old Saad, 14-year-old Tund, and little Adibasi, who was only 6. Since the passing of his beloved wife, Adisua, they had been a small but happy family. Alumai toiled on his farm, growing crops and raising livestock, providing for his children. Their life was simple, but filled with love. Yet, over time, a quiet loneliness began to creep into Alumai's heart. He missed the companionship he once shared with Adesua. So, when a beautiful widow named Ngozi arrived in the village, he was drawn to her warmth. She too had children, Chijioke and Techi, who were close in age to Saad. Before long, Alumide was courting her, and within months, they were married. At first, their new life seemed perfect. Ngozi was gentle and affectionate, showering all the children with care. She cooked, cleaned, and filled the home with a sense of completeness. Even Saad, who was initially hesitant, slowly began to warm up to her new stepmother. Alumide believed he had found happiness once again. But soon, a shadow began to fall. Ngozi, while still sweet on the surface, started making subtle demands on Saad. Extra chores fell to her: cleaning, fetching water, tending the farm, while Ngozi's own children, Chijioke and Techi, did nothing. Saad, ever obedient, never complained, but a heavy exhaustion began to weigh on her. Why was she the only one working while the others sat idle? It wasn't just the work. Ngozi's words, though spoken sweetly, carried a sharp edge. "Saad, you should be setting a better example. You're the eldest," she'd say, her voice hiding a sting. A pit of unease began to form in Saad's stomach. Worse still, Alumide, once so attentive to his daughter, was falling under Ngozi's spell. Blinded by her charm and swayed by her soft whispers, he began to see Saad through Ngozi's eyes. She painted Saad as old-fashioned and rebellious, making it seem as though Saad was the difficult one. One evening, after another grueling day, Saad overheard a conversation that chilled her to the bone. "She's becoming too independent, Alumide," Ngozi's voice cooed. "You must make her understand she's not in charge. We need to think about what's best for our family's future." Saad's heart sank. It was crystal clear. Ngozi didn't want to be a stepmother. She wanted to be the master of the house. Saad was a threat to her plan to secure Alumide's wealth and land for her own children. The very next day, things took a turn for the worse. Ngozi began telling Alumide that Saad was acting out, and that she was too old to be at home and should find her own way. She framed Saad as a disruptive force in their peaceful home. Tragically, Alumide, caught in Ngozi's web of manipulation, believed her. Saad tried to defend herself, to explain her actions, but her father wouldn't listen. His mind was made up, poisoned by Ngozi's lies. He grew cold, accusing her of being ungrateful. Heartbroken and feeling utterly betrayed, Saad knew she had to leave. Packing her few belongings, she walked away from the only home she had ever known, determined that one day she would return, not as a victim, but as a force for truth. Saad found refuge in a nearby village, taking on odd jobs to support herself. She never lost touch with her siblings. Little Adebisi missed her terribly, and Tund, now older, had also started to notice the sinister changes in their home. Saad spent months saving money, gathering strength, and making a plan. When Saad finally returned to Agbara, she was no longer the vulnerable girl who had left. She was stronger, wiser, and more resolute than ever. She began speaking to villagers, quietly gathering information, piecing together the puzzle of Ngozi's deceit. The truth began to unravel. With the help of Tund and a few trusted villagers, Saad discovered the full extent of Ngozi's scheme. It wasn't just about pushing her out. It was a calculated plot to seize the family's entire property. Saad now had the evidence she needed. She wasn't just fighting for her place back in the family. She was fighting to expose a manipulator and save her father from ruin. One evening, she walked back into her home. Ngozi was in the kitchen, and Alumide sat at the table, lost in thought. Saad stood before him, her voice steady and strong. "Father," she began, "there is something you need to know." Alumide looked up, his eyes a mix of surprise, confusion, and guilt. Everything Ngozi told you about me is a lie, Saad said calmly. She has been manipulating you, using your love to get what she wants. She wants this farm, this house, everything you've worked for. She pushed me out because I stood in her way. Ngozi's face went pale. Her calm facade finally shattered as she tried to deny it, but Saad was prepared. She presented letters, messages, and accounts from villagers who had witnessed Ngozi's true colors. Alamide was silent as the weight of the truth crashed down on him. The pain in his eyes was unmistakable. He had been blind, but now he could see. I didn't know, Saad, he whispered, his voice cracking. I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. Saad stepped forward, her own heart aching for his pain, but her resolve was firm. It's not too late, father. We can rebuild this family. Together. Ngozi's schemes were exposed, and she was forced to leave. Alamide worked hard to regain the trust of his children, and together, they healed the wounds that had been inflicted upon their family. Saad's rightful place was restored, and through her courage, she taught her father that true family is built on trust and honesty, not greed and deceit. She proved that love, no matter how tested, has the strength to overcome even the darkest of plots. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.